Good morning. Today, again, I'm in my garden. I'm actually recording this on the day of 1 Ajmak because yesterday it just didn't kind of work out, you know? Sometimes that's the way it goes. And I actually thought that fits in really rather well with talking about Ajmak, because Ajmak's all about being a human, right? Accepting our humanity. It's about loving each other for exactly who we are, recognizing the beauty of the human heart, recognizing that we're all as perfect as we are, and exactly what we are is what we're supposed to be. And of course, in our modern society, we're driven by all of these kind of like ideals about who we're supposed to be, what we're supposed to be, all of those kind of things, and quite honestly, we can't live up to it. And so we tend to make mistakes, or what perceived as mistakes, and then we beat ourselves or each other up about them and all that kind of thing. And the more pressure there is, the more our humanity shows, and we don't all have the foresight or the understanding about what the consequences of our actions are going to be. And then we have to apologize, or we have to forgive people, or whatever it is. And particularly, let's say, in the last 260 days since the last Trecena of Ajmak, which began in March of earlier of this year, which coincided with a lot of the world craziness going on. You know, it's like, okay, what has happened over the last 260 days? Because maybe you've had some harsh words with your friends, with your family. Maybe everybody's got differences of opinions, whether it's about the world situation, whether it's about political situation, who knows? But quite honestly, most of the time, we're just trying to do the best we can, being human beings on this planet. And you know, we do what we think is right at the right time, and we fight passionately sometimes about what we think is right, only to later find out, well, maybe we didn't have all of the information, or maybe we got distracted by something, or something along that sort of line. Now, it's kind of interesting living in this side of the Atlantic and having a lot of friends from around the world. Tomorrow I'll be celebrating with some of my friends from the US and all that kind of thing. Thanksgiving, and one of the things I was thinking that just sort of like came to me this morning is that in some ways this is also it can bring up some of the best sides of human nature. It's about gratitude. It's about recognizing what we've received, what we accept. It's about recognizing what is given by people to look after other people. And so it's interesting that this falls in the Ajmak Trecena, and the Ajmak Trecena gives us this opportunity to reset, to sit around the table together, to remember what it is that we love about each other, you know, remember what it is that's in our hearts, and maybe forget some of those differences that have come up over the last 260 days, or at least resolve them. At least resolve them, not only with others, but in ourselves as well. Having that opportunity to sit down with that person that maybe you had a bit of a falling out with, and remember what it is just to share a meal in gratitude. And so it's interesting the way that sometimes these things fall within the Trecenas, but it's certainly something that we can all be focusing on through this Trecena. Is right, okay, where am I going to make amends? How am I going to make amends? Who am I going to make amends to? Maybe it's to yourself as well. Maybe you kind of like looking at yourself, as we all do, and say, yeah, I probably could have done that a bit better. Maybe I shouldn't have been so harsh, or maybe I should have thought that through. But, you know, that's what it is. That's human nature. That's who we are. That's how we learn. We're learning through our mistakes, if they're mistakes even. You know, we're not put here to be perfect. I always think about this kind of like idea about these perfect beings walking around like little robots, you know, never making a mistake because they're just following that program. And what's that program? Well, if there's a program, there's no learning. If there's a program, it's all predetermined, it's all predestined. It's just like running a, running a set of circumstances that don't take us anywhere, that don't evolve us. It's by falling over and getting back up again that we really learn. And Ajmak, the Ajmak Trecena, is certainly one of these times when we have the opportunity to get back up again. We have the opportunity to offer our hand and say, yeah, you know, I know that happened, but it's over now. Come on. Let's go and have fun together. Because that's the other thing about Ajmak. That's the other side of being a human, right? It's about the love and the fun. And it's like, you know, okay, we have our responsibilities, and I don't want to kind of like undermine them in any way. But we're also put here to have fun. We're put here to explore. We're put here to be human. So beating ourselves or others up about being a human and making the odd mistake, that's not what we're here to do. So, a time of redemption, a time of forgiveness, a time of acceptance, a time to move on. And so we're going to begin on the day 1 Ajmak today. Look at this. Look at this. This is my November days. This is why I love November so much. Look at that sky. Absolutely beautiful. And here, just after sunrise, we've got Trecena or Trecena, like illuminated. Just up there, on that side over there, that's where the altars are. What a beautiful place to be a human. So, 1 Ajmak. What do we have to say? Well, it's a new chance. It's a chance to begin again. To begin again through forgiveness. It's going to set the theme. It's like, right, okay, yeah, it might be also about doing some deep personal work. Maybe you're holding some anger about something you did. Maybe you're holding some guilt or some shame over something that happened. And, you know, it's like we all accept that we say that we were doing our best, but we also know that sometimes we got distracted, or sometimes, you know, someone came along or whatever, and things might not have been the way that we'd originally planned them. And, you know, also sometimes we might have got taken off course by that. But we can't hold on to it. It's just going to be like a brick around our neck if we hold on to it. So we've got to let it go. We've got to move forward. And 1 Ajmak, for me, is kind of like giving us the chance for a fresh start. And that fresh start comes through forgiveness of others and of the self. And so it's a great day just to be letting some stuff go today. From 1 Ajmak, we're going to move into 2 Noch. Well, the thing that immediately pops to mind is dualistic thinking. Because 2 can be very black and white, left and right. You know, it's kind of like it's dualities, it's polarities. And Noch, of course, about the mind, about the brain. But, you know, what we can also see is that Noch is the problem solver, and 2 is the polarities. And so this is about looking about both sides of the problem in order to come up with the solution. And again, you know, however we look at it, often in our own lives, we're only looking at things from our perspective. We're not seeing it from the other perspective. 2 Noch gives us that opportunity to do that. Once again, the acceptance of the opposing view, or at least the understanding of the opposing view. We don't necessarily have to agree with it. That's not what it's about. We have our own views, we have our own ways of being, we have what we accept and what we reject in our lives. But 2 Noch might help us to understand why those other people have those views. It gives us an opportunity, again, not as an apologist for anything. There are certain things that need to be sorted out in our world, but we need to understand why people might have those views. What happens there, how it happens there. And 2 Noch can give us this understanding of the duality so that we can solve the problems and come to a resolution. From 2 Noch, we're then going to move to 3 Tihash. Well, I've already talked about inner work, right? And here we are, 3 Tihash. Well, inner healing, healing in the home. Also a great deal of discernment and a great deal of kind of like looking within and say, right, okay, what have I got to let go of? What have I got to cut away? Because Tihash is giving you that obsidian blade to cut through what you don't need to carry anymore. You know, it's helping you to release from guilt, blame, shame, all of those things that I was talking about with regards to Ajmak. That's what it's here to do, okay? 3 Tihash might suggest that you don't venture very far perhaps on 3 Tihash day. It's a day of going inwards, looking at your inner work and seeing what you want to work with, what you want to let go of. So 3 Tihash might not necessarily be the easiest day to navigate, and particularly, you know, it's like if we think of Tihash also relating to conflict, which it can do, 3 Tihash is about inner conflict. And what could be more appropriate to be dealing with in the Ajmak Trecena than healing the inner conflict? From 3 Tihash, we're then going to go into 4 Kawok. Kawok, the Nawal of the rains. Well, hopefully the rains are done now, I think. Hopefully the rains are gone. For a little while, anyway. Kawok, the birthing of the new into the world. Kawok, the one who opens the way and helps us to wash away what's been cut. Now here, the number 4 puts it on a very practical level. So again, this is a great time to be pushing into something new physically. Okay, so again, there could be physical changes. There might be a little physical, let's say, bump that you might need in order to get over something. There may also be this kind of like physical push into the new world. We're constantly rebirthing, we're constantly being renewed. And 4 Kawok is here to help us. There's also an aspect of Kawok which is very much attached to healing, particularly feminine healing, compassion. And the number 4 in the physical world, so it's very much about being physically compassionate. Again, no surprises in the Trecena of Ajmak to see the need for physical compassion, to see the need to push things through in the physical plane. So this is also something, okay, like Kawok is strong. She's the flood, she's that rainstorm that will bring that flood, that will make the birth process happen, whether we want it to or not. And here, you have that power with you to push through something in the physical, to bring new birth, new life, to renovate into this world. From 4 Kawok, we're then going to go into 5 Ajpu. So Ajpu, well, sun's shining brightly this morning, I can tell you. Ajpu, the Nawal of the sun, the Nawal of the divine path, the Nawal of the spiritual path, the Nawal of the path to ascension, we could look at it. And the number 5, the number of work, the number of putting some effort into it. It's kind of like, this is a day when you may well encounter something which is really important on your spiritual path, providing you're willing to put the energy into it. And this, again, Ajmak Trecena. We're talking about forgiveness, and forgiveness doesn't always come without a little bit of effort, you know, it doesn't always come without a little bit of a push to get you there in the first place. So 5 Ajpu is sort of like really suggesting that where you put your energy is something which will help you to elevate your consciousness, is something which will help you to advance or evolve your soul, because it's about putting your energy into your spiritual path. Again, kind of like maybe all those courses and workshops, all those books that you've read and all of those kind of things. It's like, well, are you actually putting it into practice? How is your practice going? What are you doing with regards to your practice? 5 Achpu is saying kind of like, this is a great day to be getting on with that practice, to be putting your energy into that, because it's really going to kind of like affect and work with your path. From 5 Achpu, we're then going into 6 Imosh. So, well, part of me feels like I should turn the camera around right now so that you can see the lake. Maybe I should do that. There we go. It's a very Ajmak day. I'm being a human. Look, there we go. There's our beautiful lake. A bit bleached out by the sun, no doubt. But, so there we go. 6 Imosh. The Nawal of dreams. The Nawal of water. The Nawal of lake. The Nawal of the great bodies of water, the oceans. Imosh, I often see about grounding the dream into the world, about being the dream. It's also about connecting to the collective consciousness around us. Now, that can be a bit of a double-edged sword, because sometimes that collective consciousness is going to feed us fear, sometimes it's going to feed us ignorance, sometimes it's going to feed us all sorts of things, which, to be honest, have sometimes put our world in the state that it's in. But it's also that empathic connection to the people around us. On this day of 6 Imosh, this is about the understanding of the connection of the divine masculine and the divine feminine into the earth, into our physical realm. It's about seeing things from a higher perspective. It's about connecting with the collective consciousness. So again, it's something that we can really understand why it's sitting in the Trecena of Ajmak, simply because surely that's something that we have to do. Surely we need to see from these higher perspectives, from the higher consciousness, in order to truly forgive. We also maybe need to access those other realms and manifest that into this world so that we can feed it out into the collective consciousness, because the way that I see it is that Imosh is not just about being a receiver, it's about being a transmitter. It's about being, we're all drops of water in the ocean. There is no drop that's bigger than the other. They're all the same size. They all receive, they all transmit. What are you choosing to transmit today? Because like this is the possibility to draw it in, to connect above and below, to put it out into the physical world, into your collective that's around you. From 6 Imosh, we're going to go into 7 Ik. So 7 Ik, the Nawal of communication. 7 Ik, I often like to say, is the final word. You know, it's like the 7 being the finality, the top of the pyramid. It's also representing death and endings. And Ik being about communication, therefore it's the word. So 7 Ik, very much about that. And, you know, again, Ajmak Trecena. Now, it may have been that in the last 260 days, maybe kind of like 260 odd days ago, you thought that you had the final word in something, or somebody used some rather final words with you. But when we see it, we can also see that this is the opportunity to forgive. This is the opportunity to renovate, to see your perspective. So, from the top of the pyramid, giving us the choices, we get to choose how we get to use those words. Whether we want to make them as final as they really were, or whether we want to go back and revisit them. Maybe to use that final word not as a final word of conflict, but as a final word of peace. Maybe as a final word of healing. Maybe as a final word of forgiveness. Maybe we can use our communication skills to work through something with somebody and come to a finality, come to an ending, but one which is forgiven. it also gives us a lot of choices. Ich helps us to adapt to change. We're seeing this blue sky right now because the northern wind has come in and pushed the dry air down from Mexico. We're going into dry season. The change of the seasons comes from the wind. The change of us comes from the wind. The 7 gives us the opportunity to see in all directions, to see where we want to change, how we want to change, what we want to go after next, and how we might need to adapt in order to do that. So this is also another possibility for the 7 Ik day, to be looking at those kind of changes, to be presented with our options. From 7 Ik, we're then going to go into 8 Akbal. So, we've just come out of the Akbal Trecena, our new dawn, our new light, guiding us forward in that day, guiding us forward in the darkness. 8 Akbal gives us the opportunity to bring two things together. Maybe an old concept, which would be 7 Akbal, and a new concept, 1 Akbal, bringing it together like a seam, celebrating these things, making our ceremony for 8 Akbal to give thanks for the concepts, for the new conception. I always see this 8 like, you know, whichever Nawal we attach it to, it's still like this passing on of the torch about the old and the new being joined together. And I think that's why the 8 days are so important, because we get that wholeness. It's all about the life and death. It's all about all aspects. I suppose with Akbal, we could be talking about the dawn and the dusk. We could see, you know, 1 Akbal particularly being the sunrise or the dawn, and 7 Akbal really being the twilight, the dusk, you know. So between the two of them, when the two come together, that's the whole of the movement of the cycle of the day. So 8 Akbal I could really see as a great day for incorporating old concepts into new, bringing the two together, bringing out the best of both worlds, understanding how to do that. And so if you're looking for a new concept, if you've got a new idea that you want to bring in, 8 Akbal is kind of like going to say, well, okay, have a look through some of those part work things that you had before and see how you can bring them into your new concept that you're building. From 8 Akbal we're then going to go into 9 Kat. So Kat, the Nawal of the net, Kat, the Nawal of being brought together, of gathering. Kat, the Nawal of the harvest as well. It can often be a Nawal of abundance, but it's also this Nawal of entrapment. You know, I really see Kat and the lesson of Kat being like the catch and release. And what do we have it paired with today? The number 9. The number 9, which can represent women, it can represent the divine feminine, it can also represent life. So 9 Kat is a great day to be looking through your life to see what's holding you back, what you can let go of, where you want to make space in your net for new experiences to come in, what you want to release. Once again, going back on those themes that come up with Ajmak: guilt, shame, blame, anger, all of those kind of things, resentment, all of those things. It's like you're carrying them in that net over your shoulder, and it's like such a burden that's stopping you from truly being free. So 9 Kat gives you the day of what I would say to be almost like great focus on these things. It's also a great day to focus on these things. What's run its course? In this time of forgiveness, what am I going to let go of so that I can be free of it? This is a question that might be a very interesting one to ask on 9 Kat. And when you do, look at the space that you free up for the new experience, the new life to come in. From 9 Kat, we're then going to go into 10 Can. So Can, the Nawal of power and wisdom, Can, the Nawal of the body lightning that flows through us, that animates us, that energizes us. Can, the nawal of the teachers. And the number 10 of the two hands coming together. So what we can see, or what we can understand with this, has a great deal to do with sharing of power and sharing of wisdom within our community. It's about the teachers within our community, honouring them, helping them, working with them. It's about sharing our wisdom with our community. It's about the empowerment of all. I often see this 10 as like this. It's stretching out a hand to help another hand. And whether it's our hand which we're stretching up asking for help, or whether it's our hand that we're giving assistance to. 10 can is very much about sharing our power, sharing our wisdom with our community, so that everybody gets a step up, so that everybody can be empowered. So it's a great day for teaching, and it's a great day for sharing your wisdom in whatever way, shape or form that might take, particularly with the local community. From 10 can, we're going to go into 11 kamei. So kamei, the nawal of death and transformation. Kamei, the nawal of the ancestors. Kamei also is about facing our fears, knowing that we have our ancestors around us, the power of the ancestors around us, to help us to face our fears. Now with the 11 coupled to it, that's a wild and windy day. That's a day when we don't know where things are going to come from. It can be extremely creative. But there may be things really coming out of left field, and these may be fears which come up for you. Fears that maybe you thought that you'd dealt with, but were lurking in the shadows back there. So 11 kamei may bring up some very strong feelings, some strong fears, some strong frights even. But they're here to be cleared. Once again, I mean, Ajmak Trecena, so we're doing so much clearing in this Trecena, right? Kamei is saying kind of like, look to the wisdom of your ancestors in order to help you, because some of these things are going to come in from unexpected ways, from unexpected directions. But Kamei is also the spiritual alchemist. It's what's helping our souls to evolve, right? It's taking us on that path, helping us to overcome those things. And so Kamei generally gives us things to deal with when we're ready to deal with them. We've got the skills, we've got the abilities, we've got the talents, we've got the energy, we've got the ancestors working with us. We can do it. Doesn't mean that it won't frighten you when it first comes up though. Just time to take a breath, remember your humanity, and move forward with it. So, from 11 kamei, we're then going to move into 12 kirch. So kirch, that's kirch, right? The wilderness, the mountain, the greenness, the natural world. Kirch brings us a lot of strength. Right now I've got the squirrels talking to me, that's what you can hear over there. It's not birds, it's squirrels. Robbing the bananas, no doubt. But what's nature telling us? Well, squirrels generally tell me to be playful and joyful, so that fits in kind of nicely with the Ajmak Trecena, right? Nature teaches us all sorts of things when we choose to go out and engage with it. These lessons have been coming to us throughout our lives. We learn about all sorts of things from the natural world. Kirch is the one that brings us the strength to lead, brings us a strength in ourselves. And it's also about this engagement with nature. The number 12 is about bringing together all of our experiences. It's like wrapping it up. So you may find that on 12 kirch, you are reminded, or at least choose to access certain things from your past. certain interactions, understandings of the natural world that you've integrated over time, that your past experiences may be very, very useful. Now again, we're in the Ajmak Trecena, so it's all about forgiveness. And here, with the 12 Kirch, we see the strength and guidance that comes from nature being perhaps our guiding force in our process of forgiveness. So you may need to delve into some past experiences, some things which you've encountered in the natural world in your life to help you to understand how to navigate this day, how to forgive on this day. And then finally, the Trecena finishes with 13 Anil. Anil being the bright golden light, being the joyful one. Anil being what we've always been working towards, our harvest, our abundance, our ripening and our maturity. And of course, we could say, in many ways, that our ability to forgive is certainly one of those things that comes with maturity. Holding on to grudges is something which can be kind of seen as being fairly immature. And here we're ending up in the ultimate day of maturity, in 13 Anil, where that maturity comes from our connection to spirit, from our connection to the ancestors. And so Anil can often be a joyful day. Sometimes it can be a very joyful day where we might get a little bit too exuberant perhaps, and that kind of thing as well. But really this is a day to enjoy where we've come to enjoy what we have, to enjoy our humanity and that golden nature that emerges after we've been through that 13-day process of forgiveness. So, that's been the Ajmak Trecena. I hope that that's useful to you, and I look forward to seeing you again in 13 days' time for the Toch Trecena. Thank you.